watching ABC's Wide World of Sports.
A week ago at Texas Motor Speedway, we witnessed competition like never seen before in open wheel racing. Side by side, nose to tail at 210 miles an hour. It came down to a two-car sprint to the finish. Will it be Scott Sharp or Robbie McGee at Texas? And McGee is coming on strong.
And I saw Robbie come and I said, oh boy.
Texas Motor Speedway has a real battle going on for the lead here. Scott Sharp and Robbie McGee are going at it.
I thought I kept getting him on the outside going into the corner, but the inside line was a shorter line to drive. And
this is unbelievable. You got to try to keep a tight line, make him work for it on the outside, and luckily that worked.
Scott Sharp has the advantage as they come down for the white flag. McGee and Scott Sharp battle for the lead and the win at Texas. Scott Sharp gets the advantage and comes down and wins it.
You know, he was fast. We could catch him, but passing him was a different story.
Way beyond the most exciting race I've ever been involved in. It was awesome. That was a great race.
It was the closest finish and fastest IRL event ever. And Sharp, the series winningest driver, goes for 2 in a row today. ABC Sports welcomes you live to Pikes Peak International Raceway. The Indy Racing Northern Lights Series presents the Radisson Indy 200. This 6th race of the 2000 season follows a record-setting event last Sunday in Texas. Jack Arute is with the winner.
Scott Sharp, what will it take for you to repeat today?
I think the Delphi car is really strong, Jack. We just need to stay out there all 200 laps, stay in touch with the leaders if we can't be the leader, and just be there for the finish.
Vince, goes to post number 4.
Robbie McGee also started second last week in Robbie Buell also started second last week in Texas. Robbie, will you be more aggressive at the start this weekend?
Yeah, no, we feel pretty good about what we got here with the PureX car. You know, we've been quick out of the box since we got here. We'll have to see what kind of comes, but yeah, we're going to do everything we can to win this.
It's Robbie Buell, Bob Jenkins.
Up here with 1983 Indianapolis 500 winner Tom Sneva. Happy Father's Day to all. Well, during qualifying, we saw a new track record set by Greg Ray flat out all the way around this 1-mile track. But will they race that way, Tom?
No, I think once the green flag falls, this becomes a handling track. Those guys that can jump in the throttle and keep the car tight on the exit of turns 2 and 4 are the guys that are going to go to the front. But as you know, Bob, on these 1-mile ovals, traffic is a big concern. Those going to anticipate traffic before they're right on top of it are the ones that are going to go to the front the fastest and possibly stay there the longest.
Well, a young driver who starts 5th today appears to be well on his way to Rookie of the Year honors in the series this year, Vince.
Jason Schrader is, Jared Schrader is the fastest qualifier that has not won a race yet this season. As a rookie, are you ready to win?
Oh, definitely ready to win. The Kroger car, TriStar team, we're all ready here today.
Jared Schrader in the 6 car. Jack Arute.
Vince, Greg Ray tries to turn his entire season around starting from the pole here. Greg, how do you handle traffic today?
Well, I think there's only really one way to answer that question. That would be very carefully.
Well, Greg Ray hopes that today is an important day, a turnaround day for him. It's already an important day for his dad.
On this Father's Day, I want to wish a very happy Father's Day to my dad. He's a man of honor and a man of his word. If I can ever be like you, Dad, I'll be successful.
Twenty-six drivers set to go 200 miles this afternoon. Here's how they'll line up. Greg Ray has his 7th career pole. Robbie Buell, the best start ever for an Infiniti engine. Row number 2, teammates Mark Dismore and Scott Sharp. Row number 3, Jared Schrader and Eliseo Salazar. In the 4th row, it's Stephen Gregoire and Davey Hamilton. The 5th row, Jeff Ward and Eddie Cheever Jr. Row number 6, Scott Goodyear and Robbie McGee. In the 7th row, 2 Colorado drivers, Buddy Lazier from Vail and Buzz Calkins from Denver. The slopes of the Rocky Mountains give Buzz a perfect venue for one of his hobbies, snow skiing. Row number 8, Donnie Beechler and Ayrton Dare. In the 9th row, Shigeaki Hattori and Al Unser Jr. The 10th row, Sam Hornish Jr. and Tice Carlson. Billy Vogt and Sarah Fisher are in row number 11. The 12th row, Jimmy Kite and Jacques Lazier. And back in the last row, Canada's Doug Dodaro and Robbie Unser. Unser, that name is synonymous with nearby Pikes Peak, and Robbie first won the climb to the summit in 1987. He won the overall title in 1992. This is the third race of the year on a 1-mile track, but Jack, it requires different strategy.
Indeed it does, Bob. You know, Tom Sneva talked about traffic out on the racetrack. We're going to talk about traffic here on pit road. All the teams I talked to said they can do this race in 2 stops. So that means you can never lose sight of the leader. You pit when the leader pits. But Vince Welch, if a caution comes out at the wrong time, do you follow the leader into the pit then?
With this race and 3 races to follow, today's event becomes the first turn in the final lap to the championship. Points leader Buddy Lazier is a 50-point. You get 50 points for winning this race today. 7 drivers are within 50 points of the series leader Buddy Lazier. If Lazier should win this race today, he could take a commanding lead. If he falls back in the pack could swallow him up.
Well, in the first 5 races of 2000, we have had 5 different winners. It all began at Orlando, where Robbie Buell took the lead with less than 2 laps to go and put his 1-month-old team in victory lane. Race fans are still talking about Buddy Lazier's last to first drive on the Desert Mile in Phoenix. Skill and Las Vegas luck gave Allenzer Jr. his first win in the Indy Racing Northern Light Series. At Indianapolis, a dominating performance allowed Juan Montoya to take the traditional sip of milk. And just last week, the incredible battle to the finish line was won by Scott Sharp over Robbie McGee. Will we have a 6th different winner today? Well, Greg Ray, who is the defending series champ and the winner in both visits here last year, hope so. They will be conducting this race in an altitude more than 5,300 feet. We have onboard cameras that will be complementing our coverage here today. Scott Goodyear is in the Pennzoil Panther Dallara. He'll be starting 11th in that camera mounted on the side pod. Up in row number 2, Scott Sharp on the outside in the Delphi Automotive Systems Dallara. Just ahead of Scott Goodyear is Jeff Ward in the Harris AJ Foyt G-Force. Mark Dismore is in the OnStar GM Bipower Dallara. He'll start in the 3rd position. And Buddy Lazier in the Delta Faucets Coors Light Dallara. He'll start in 13th position. Less than a lap to go to green, Tom.
Well, track conditions a lot warmer today than when they qualified in practice, Bob. So there's going to be some educating guessings going on as far as the car setup, what's necessary for the conditions that exist. We're going to see in a couple laps who's hit the spot and who's going to need that first pit stop to make adjustments.
Well, it was 80 degrees in the middle of last week, or close to 90 here in the Colorado Springs area. Then it fell down into the 50s and 60s, and today we have bright sunshine with the temperature once again approaching the 80-degree mark. A beautiful day, good crowd on hand, and we are set to go racing 200 miles at Pikes Peak International Raceway. The field aligned nicely as they come off of the 4th corner and get the green, and we're underway. And Robbie Buell and Greg Ray race wheel to wheel into the 2nd corner, and look at Scott Sharp making the move from the 2nd row up into 2nd position as Greg Ray, the pole sitter, drops back to 3rd, and it looks like that Robbie Buell is going to come around and lead the very first lap here, and it's the first time that Buell has ever led the opening lap in an IRL race. And Lazier slows down to a near stop in corner number 4 and pulls into the pit area. So Lazier, the driver from Vail, Colorado, is an early casualty, it would appear, as Scott Sharp tries to wrestle that lead away from Robbie Buell here on the 2nd lap.
Well, Scott Sharp, the last practice session, he radioed to his crew yesterday afternoon, says, boys, we got a rocket ship here, so it feels like the rocket's lit.
He, of course, started from the outside of the front row last week, but he really didn't earn that starting position as they were lined up by points, but he did earn this starting position outside of row number 1. There is Scott Sharp, and he's just a couple of car lengths behind Buell. Sharp, the winningest driver in series history as a result of last week's incredible run at Texas. He broke the tie that existed between himself, Ari Lyondike, and Kenny Breck. Greg Ray staying right up there in 3rd position. Mark Dismore's running 4th, Jared Schrader 5th, then Salazar, Cheever, Ward, Hamilton, and Calkins.
Bob, it seems as if the motor has broken on Buddy Lazier's car. That's the report he's given the crew.
He sits helplessly down in his pit stall. As the race continues under green, and Buddy Lazier, the points leader going into this event, could indeed suffer a major setback in his quest for the championship here today. Down to Vince Welch.
Ron Himmelgarn, team owner for Buddy Lazier. Is it a motor?
I think we blew an engine. We're checking it right now, but he said he went down the backstretch and just let go. So we had a good run there. We passed a lot of cars on the start, so I think we could have had a good race, but unfortunately we blew an engine.
Back upstairs.
Well, Vince, as you said, if Lazier has a problem, he's going to get ate up by the pack in this point championship, and that's exactly what's going to happen.
Following Mark Dismore here, pursued by Jared Schrader. They're running about 2.8 seconds, and we have a crash out in turn number 2, and Billy Boat is involved along with Sarah Fisher. Fisher's car is up against the wall in turn 2. Boat's car, as you can see, has come to a stop down on the inside of the racetrack, exiting turn number 2. But there is Sarah Fisher, who obviously is frustrated and very disappointed that her day has come to an early end. There is damage, considerable damage to the back end of that race car.
Well, it appears as though she's all right. She's just real frustrated. So we'll have to watch and see what happened in the replay, if it was, you know, whose fault or what happened in that situation.
And there is Bo to the left of your screen. They're running the 99 chassis for Team Pelfrey this week. Some help from Curb Records. You can see there on the back of the engine cover. Let's take a look at the replay and see what happened. Well,
I don't know if Sarah got any help, but she lost the rear end. It spun around, and actually Billy was spinning too. He was just in front of her.
They were neither one really that close to each other, but Bo spun on the low side of the racetrack in turn number 2. So it brings out our first caution of the day. I don't think that Billy hit anything, but Sarah did.
Well, sometimes early in the race we have fluids out of these cars. They might be overfilled on fuel or whatever, and that could have been a problem for these two.
Well, they're assisting Sarah out of the car, but it appears as if she will climb out under her own power, so that is good news. Let's go down to Jack Arute.
This Wide World of Sports update brought to you by Mobile One. Nothing outperforms Mobile One.
Well, the mobile update today is some very important news for the Indy Racing League. We've got Bob Reif here, who is the Executive Vice President. Bob, you made an announcement about 12 of the races for 2001. Tell us about it.
That's right, Jack. We announced 12 of the races for the 2001 season, and we're just thrilled to say that we're going to be in 6 new markets in 2001. We're going to be in Miami, Florida. We're going to be in Richmond, Virginia. We're going to be in Nashville, Tennessee. We're also going to be in St. Louis, Missouri, and we were just thrilled that we're going to be racing focused on the Midwest for 2001.
Now, how many more races can we expect in the 2001 season?
Well, right now we're in negotiations with a number of tracks, and we've got bona fide offers from companies, but you know, we're real comfortable with 12, but you know, you may see us go to 14 or 15.
We've heard some stories that maybe Daytona is in your plans.
Well, Jack, anything's possible.
Vince?
Well, very disappointed. Buddy Lazier certainly does damage to the championship hopes.
Yeah, we've run great on the short ovals, second and a first, and it's fun. I mean, I passed a bunch of cars on the first lap. Motor broke on the first lap. No over revs or anything. It just broke. Mechanical failure somewhere.
You hadn't felt any vibrations of any nature prior to?
No, I mean, it just started to lose power, and then about a tenth of a second later it broke. And so it absolutely very, very disappointing, very destructive for our championship hopes. Very disappointing.
Current points leader Buddy Lazier, the first one out. Bob Jenkins.
And it's his second DNF of the season for Buddy Lazier. We're under caution because of an incident involving Sarah Fisher and Billy Boat. More from Pikes Peak in a moment. Back at Pikes Peak International Raceway, under caution as we back up the videotape a little earlier in this incident, we see that there may have been some contact between Boat and Fisher.
Well, they're right there, Bob, where the circle was. Sarah's down low, so I'm not sure if she's trying to get underneath Billy right there, and it's real hard to see if they came together or not, but she was obviously frustrated with either her mistake of trying to pass that early or thinks maybe Billy came down on her a little bit and pinched her off.
Well, Fisher obviously up against the fence, but Boat did not hit anything. Jack?
Well, Bob, we're looking at Robbie Buell, and here is a wing, the rear wing for Robbie Buell's PRX team, not the rear wing that they've decided to use in the race. They wanted to add more downforce. One of the reasons, well, the track has gotten hotter. it's gotten a little more important to have some downforce. So they made a switch earlier today. It's, by the way, the same wing they used in Orlando for that victory.
And we all remember that in January. That was his second victory in the Indy Racing Northern Light Series. Here he is taking the lead from Eddie Cheever in that red, white, and blue car. And Robbie Buell went on to his second victory. His first was at New Hampshire in 1997. And this could be a record-setting day for the Infinity. Its best finish was second, Mike Groff, back in 1997.
Well, you know, Jack's talking about wings down there. One of the rule changes this year, they went to the smaller motor. Now, to keep the speeds up, they actually changed the wing rule. They don't have to run any wicker bill on this 1 mile oval wing that they use. So a lot of the guys in qualifying didn't run any wicker bills in the back of that wing. For the race and the heat of the day, they've all added some kind of wicker bill in the back, anywhere from a quarter to a half an inch of wicker bill for more downforce and stability.
We check in with Vince Welch.
Scott Sharp currently running second, very happy with the way his race car is handling, says it's handling well in traffic, and it's also getting through the corners very smoothly. That's extremely positive results for a team that did not test here before coming here, came off the truck very quick this weekend, and they're showing it here in the early going.
Well, Saturday, ABC Sports brings you great golf action. Hal Sutton, Nick Price, and other top PGA Tour golfers hit the green for the FedEx St. Jude Classic. That's Saturday live at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific, here on ABC. Well, they're going to throw the green flag next time by. It's Buell, Sharp, Ray, Dismore, and Schrader, the top five. Then Salazar, Hamilton, Cheever, Ward, and Calkins. Now, Buzz has moved from 14th to 10th in the first 15 laps of the race, and Ayrton Dare is up to 11th position. He started 16th. Pace car is off the racetrack, and the pace quickens now. Scott Sharp is staying right there with Robbie Buell as they come down and get the green flag, and we're back to racing once again.
Well, you can see Sharp got a little bit of a run, but not enough to get by, and they both got away from Greg Ray a little bit running in third. They both were able to get a couple car lengths on that restart.
The action down the backstretch.
Well, that was Eddie Cheever in the gray and black car that you saw dive underneath entering three.
And the battle continues between Jared Schrader and Mark Dismore. Well, that's for fourth position, and look at Cheever in the other Infinity powered car.
Eddie doesn't sometimes qualify as well as he'd like, but he's always going forward when the green flag falls, Bob.
So that moves Cheever up to fifth position now as he was able to get by Jared Schrader. Cheever in the excited home Indy race car. On board with Mark Dismore now looking back to Cheever and Schrader. And not too far back there is Eliseo Salazar and Jeff Ward.
You know, Bob, what happens is it takes these guys a couple laps to really feel the car out. Again, the weather's quite a bit hotter than when they practiced and qualified, so they feel the car out for a couple laps and then make the adjustments they can inside the car. They've got sway bar adjustments, and they can move the weight from the left to the right side of the car. And again, that's all to balance the handling characteristics. Once they get that done, made those adjustments, and they can go to the front.
Back up front, it continues to be Buell leading Scott Sharp, but by just a couple of car lengths. Last time, the fastest car on the racetrack was Scott Sharp, just a little bit quicker than Robbie Buell. Buell ran a 165.5, whereas Sharp ran a 165.6. You see the interval between first and second, just about 0.3 of a second. Come down and complete lap number 22. We'll do an at the line and show you who indeed is the quickest on that particular lap. Looks like Scott Sharp, followed by Buell and Greg Ray. The top three were the fastest three, but not in any particular order.
These two are stuck right together. I think Scott might be just a little bit quicker, but as he sucks up behind Buell, he gets in some of that what we call dirty air, or some of the turbulent air, and it'll take away some of the downforce in the car and make it hard for him to complete that pass.
And here here is Eddie Cheever once again moving in on Mark Dismore for the 4th position. So far, a good day for the Infinity engines. They're running in 1st and in 5th, and Frank Hanselwitz from the Infinity program indicated that right now their major concern is not necessarily with reliability, because the engines have been very reliable this year, but rather with fuel mileage, and that is always an important factor in an Indy Racing Northern Lights Series event.
Well, no question about it, but the Infinity's been a little bit behind. They've had to work on both horsepower and reliability. Now that they've got those two things, they've gone to work on the fuel mileage end of the motor, and they're a little bit behind still in that area.
Once again, Cheever closes in on Dismore as they move through the 3rd and 4th corners of the racetrack. The banking here is at 13 degrees in the corners, 7 degrees here in the tri-oval area, and 3 degrees down the backstretch.
Well, you can see Eddie, he's looking for a place to get around, but when he gets up tight, again, he gets in the dirty air, and it hurts him a little.
Well, Jack Arute is with Sarah Fisher, who's out of the race.
And she has been released from the hospital. Sarah, do you know what happened out there?
I haven't seen the tape yet, so I'm not really sure, but I do know that I touched with another car, and things don't go good here when you touch. But, you know, I want to thank my guys. We had a really awesome week going, and they work really hard. They do a great job, and I feel extremely bad for them.
Some early conversation about the slickness of the racetrack. What did you think?
Well, you know, I was a lot looser than I was this week. I was starting to work with my weight jacker, trying to tighten it up a bit, and, you know, I was very loose, so, but that had nothing to do with the crash. I mean, the guys did a great job on the car. They really worked hard, and I thought we had a great race car, so that had nothing to do with the crash.
Bob?
Well, a good battle going on between Dismore and Cheever, but it's even better up front as the leaders approach now the slower traffic, putting a lap on Shigeaki Hattori. There is Buell already clearing him, and now Scott Sharp going around. Now that's Robbie Unser next that they will put a lap on. Unser running back in the 22nd position.
Well, again, this traffic really will dictate what happens with your lead. If you gain on somebody or you lose some spots. And sometimes you can't help when you catch the traffic. You're just sort of at bay, and you get there at the wrong time, and it can hurt you.
We see how close Greg Ray is to the 2nd place car of Scott Sharp, with whom we ride. There is the interval on the racetrack. Greg Ray started from pole position but failed to lead the first lap. In fact, Robbie Buell has led all 30 so far. More action in the Indy Racing Northern Lights Series from Pikes Peak International Raceway in a moment. Well, back here at Pikes Peak, while we were away, we want to keep you up to date on what happened. Look at Eddie Cheever finally get the run that he was looking for on Mark Dismore, and Cheever moved up to the 4th position. There's Jared Schrader to the inside of Dismore, and Dismore since that time has been dropping back like a rock, Tom. He's back to 14th.
Well, I think what's surprising these guys is they're starting to go loose. Usually with the hot weather, they might have anticipated having more understeer, but the cars are going loose. You can see in Dismore's car, he doesn't want to turn that wheel very much. That indicates to us the back end doesn't feel very secure to him, and he just can't use the pedal.
Robbie Buell has led all the way. Sarah Fisher and Buddy Lazier are out of the contest. Lazier with a blown motor, and Sarah Fisher crashed, but she is okay. We have talked with her. There's the interval between 1st and 2nd. Buell on your left and Scott Sharp on the right as they once again approach some slower traffic now. Sam Hornish did make a pit stop just a few moments ago. Now that's Doug Dodaro that's going a lap down.
Tom Stevie, you're talking about cars going loose. One car that has not gone loose is the Purex number 24. I just checked with Mitch Davis, and he said, we are dead solid perfect.
Well, that's usually what happens. The solid perfect guys are towards the front. Everybody else is hanging on. They've either run out of adjustment. They either run out of adjustment with their sway bars and their adjustments in the cockpit. Now they got to wait for that pit stop. And actually, some of these guys are coming in early. That's how bad the handling is for them.
This is Eliseo Salazar, closely pursued by Jared Schrader. Ayrton Dare is right there in the middle of things, and so is Donnie Beechler. In fact, Beechler is passing Dare and picking up the 7th position. Beechler is in the black car for Cahill Racing, and Donnie Beechler, the dirt track veteran from Springfield, Ohio, is moving up nicely here to the 7th spot.
And you know, Donnie Beechler had a little added advantage today, Bob. He competed in the USAC midget race for 25 laps. He finished last, but he said, hey, every lap I get at Pikes Peak helps the learning curve.
Actually, I talked to Cahill, his owner, in the garage area right before the midget car race, and he was very concerned about Donnie running that midget race. He actually started last to try to stay out of trouble, and Cahill told him to stay out of trouble. I said, yeah, but you know how coachable these drivers are.
It was a real clean race, won by Ryan Newman, by the way. And there you see the drivers that are moving up. Donnie Beechler has picked up 8 spots, Dare 8. Unser Jr., Carlson, and Jacques Lazier have each moved up 7 positions since the drop of the green flag.
Bob Jenkins, one driver who's not moving up. He's going the opposite direction is Mark Dismore. He started 3rd. He's currently 15th. Has a terrible push, and they're trying to work it out. But this is one they're going to have to hold on to until they can get to the pit stop. His teammate Scott Sharp just a little bit loose, but they say so far the car's still handling well.
And Donnie Beechler picks up another position as he passes Eliseo Salazar, and Beechler goes to 5th. One of these unsponsored teams, and you really can't understand that because Donnie always gets a lot of airtime because he's running at the front of the field practically all of the time. Donnie Beechler now up to 5th position. There you see the interval among the top 3. Buell is the leader. More after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Keeping you up to speed on what happened during our commercial break. Well, Donnie Beechler moved up another position. He gets a good run here on the tri-oval area of the racetrack and passes Eddie Cheever Jr. And Donnie Beechler has moved that Cahill Racing car up to 4th position. There he is, about 10 seconds behind the leader of the race, Robbie Buell. Here's a good battle between Dare and Hamilton and Calkins. Buzz Calkins also in this battle.
Well, Dare and Hamilton are teammates on that Team Extreme, and obviously the cars are prepared very similar.
And there right ahead of them is Eliseo Salazar, who's running in 6th. So 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th are running very close together on the racetrack.
That blue car is Jared Schrader, diving to the bottom, looking for a way around. He's having a good run.
He's in the 10th position, trying to go into 9th. There is Salazar driving for A.J. Foyt in the Rio's A.J. Foyt G-Force.
We hear in the radio a lot of guys are looking to take front wing out of the car when they make the pit stops. Again, meaning the car's a little bit loose. The back end's more happy than they want it to be.
Well, we have not had that first round of pit stops yet. A lot of traffic here on the backstretch, and that bunches up this group that's racing together. Salazar and Dare and Hamilton and Calkins and Schrader.
Well, the red car on the outside is Robbie Unser, struggling with the Riley Scott chassis, Bob.
And also in this group is Al Unser Jr., who's in 11th position. Mark Dismore is 12th, and he's the last car on the lead lap and is within a second of going a lap down with an ill-handling race car. Jack, Robbie Buell has a 6-second lead.
Yeah, and the one thing that everybody's crossing their fingers is the Infinity Power. This is Ed Pink right here, who is monitoring all the functions of the Infinity Power Plant. Now remember, Infinity has not won a race, although Robbie Buell did, but that was with the Aurora.
Ed Pink, a veteran engine builder. We talked about the midget race that was won here earlier. He not only builds the Infinity engines, but he builds a lot of midget engines also.
Well, that name started in drag racing. He was the king of drag racing motors for a long time, but Eddie built some great motors. Actually built a couple of race motors that I built.
He's been around a while then, huh?
He still looks the same.
Salazar, Dare, Hamilton, and Calkins continuing to run very close on the racetrack. And Robbie Buell is slow here in the tri-oval. Buell with smoke belching from the back end of that race car. And after leading the first 60 laps of the race, it appears to be all over for Robbie Buell.
Well, you can see the smoke or Oil coming out of the back of the car, not a good sign. It's probably got some bad breath too, and that's not a good sign for those motors.
And Ed Fink, the engine builder, can only right now imagine what has happened to Robbie Buell.
Let's see if, based on the telemetry, Ed can tell us. What do you think happened, Ed?
We don't know yet. It's just all of a sudden smoke came out the back, and everything looked good, then all of a sudden something happened, so I'm not really sure.
I think maybe the most telling point is right here. There's a red line that went from here all the way to the bottom in about 2.2 seconds.
And so now the Infinity effort is left up to Eddie Cheever Jr., who is running in 4th position at the moment. We are under caution for the 2nd time here at Pikes Peak. Back at Pikes Peak International now, watch what happens to Greg Ray here as he comes in, or actually as he is exiting his pit and others are coming in. There is contact between Hamilton and Ray. Watch this. Ooh, right there.
Major damage to the nose piece on Ray's car, and it got Davey Hamilton all out of shape.
And he came in the next lap, and
you can see the right front wing is damaged severely.
The team was able to change the front nose of the car without Greg going down a lap, but it certainly did hurt him in terms of track position. He's fallen all the way back to 11th spot now, as we are still under caution, but the pace car is off the racetrack now. One of the drivers who was helped tremendously was Mark Dismore, who was about to go a lap down before that caution. Jack?
Bob, let's show you exactly this wing right here as we go back to green. This is the wing that they took off. It was badly damaged. They did it quickly.
All right, we are back to racing now. Now, Scott Goodyear there in the yellow car. The Pennzoil Panther is a lap down, trying to get his lap back. The leader of the race is Scott Sharp. 2nd position belongs to Beechler. Then Cheever Allenser Jr. is 4th, and Eliseo Salazar is in 5th position. On board with Jeff Ward, who has lost 3 laps. He's back in 18th position. Vince?
First it was Buddy Lazier, the #1 man in the points, blowing a motor, and then Robbie Buell 4th in points. Any indication, Robbie, before it let go?
No indication. You know, that's just part of it. The Infinity motor, everything been going great. Just part of the learning curve. I just feel bad for the Purex guys because we don't get a car that often like we just had. And it hurts for the points in the whole Northern Lights series, but part of it.
Robbie Buell done for the day.
Yes, indeed. He is someone else who will suffer point-wise as a result of this race. Well, there is Allenser Jr., who again is up to the 4th position, running about 4 seconds behind the leader of the race. There is Donnie Beechler, and he is catching Donnie, who is in 3rd. Eddie Cheever has taken 2nd position away from Beechler.
Well, there's some good racing going on back through here. I mean, they're just dicing for positions all over the racetrack, Bob.
You know, Scott Sharp is literally walking away from this field, guys, and he radioed to Tom Kelly, and TK, his car owner, said, look, Scott, take it 1 lap at a time. Let's not abuse things. Let's save some for the end.
And as I said, Mark Dismore really benefited because of that caution. He had a terribly handling race car, was almost to go a lap down, but the caution came out just right, and as a result, he's back up to 5th position, and it appears the car is handling much better than it did.
Well, he hasn't had much luck throughout the season, so he was due some good luck, Bob, and that was certainly a piece of good luck for him.
Indeed. Dismore, his best finish was 2nd at Las Vegas, and he finished 6th last week at Texas, but he's also had finishes of 16th at Orlando and in Phoenix. Let's check the speeds here. Right now, Scott Sharp, the fastest on that lap, with Cheever 2nd, and the third fastest that lap was Allenser Jr., and Scott Sharp is quicker by more than 2 miles an hour.
But you know what, Bob, that they're trying to do with Scott Sharp, as we talked and Tom Sneva told you about race traffic, they are trying to time the race traffic, being a little proactive. They don't want to pass race traffic in the corners if at all possible. So those lap times will fluctuate quite a bit.
Here is Beechler moving through slower traffic. That is Jacques Lazier that he put a lap on, and the third car there would be Allenser Jr. We're on board with Jeff Ward, and I'm not sure we know what happened to him, but he's 3 laps down, Tom, back in 18th spot.
Well, he pitted under the green, Bob, and that hurt him real bad. Everybody else had the advantage of pitting under the yellow. The car was off enough that they thought they needed to come in, and then the yellow comes out. It really hurts you.
Now Al Unser Jr. has also passed Jacques Lazier, so he has his sights on the 3rd place car of Donnie Beechler just ahead. There they are, 3rd and 4th. Al Unser Jr., of course, has never raced at Pikes Peak International Raceway. His first visit to this 1-mile facility.
Well, they did come and test, Bob, and I talked to Al, and he was real happy with what they learned in the test condition.
There's the 2nd place car of Eddie Cheever. Now there is Beechler in 3rd and Unser in 4th position. So
look at the traffic. You look at the traffic. Donnie Beechler got caught out on traffic, and little Al, in a blink of a second, was by him.
On board with our side pod, Ken, on the Pennzoil Panther. We'll call this the Pennzoil Cam, as Scott Goodyear was unsuccessful in his effort to get his lap back, so he's still back in 13th spot, 1 lap down.
Well, they've obviously missed the setup because
say hi.
Well, we got trouble.
Oh, we got a spinner, and it's Greg Ray.
Whoa. Wow, look at the avoidance maneuver by those guys.
Wow.
A great job in missing him. But it's not Greg Ray.
No, it's Hattori.
Boy, he's very fortunate.
Shigeaki Hattori, who had a good run in his debut last week at Texas Motor Speedway. Hattori speaks no English, and so his spotter communicates with him, needless to say, in Japanese also. Well, another caution comes out here at Pikes Peak for the 3rd time this race. Hattori spinning on the backstretch. Scott Sharp continues his lead over Eddie Cheever Jr., Al Unser Jr., Donnie Beechler, and Eliseo Salazar. Less than a lap to go to green. We'll show you why we are under caution. My apologies to Team Menard. It wasn't Greg Ray that spun us. It's Shigeaki Hattori off corner 2.
Right in front of Al Unser and Goodyear, and they both did a good job of missing him. And now 2 or 3 other guys. Look at this. Lazier, Jacques, and on the inside is Jarrett. Wow.
Did some dirt track racing there, but did not make contact. Here we go. The green comes out, and we are back to competition. Sharp leads Cheever across the line, then Al Unser Jr., Beechler, Salazar, Dismore, and Dare. So Eddie Cheever Jr. now has the responsibility of getting the Infinity the win here this weekend. For a while, Robbie Buell appeared to have things in hand, but on the 62nd lap of the race, in the lead, he dropped out, giving Scott Sharp the advantage, but Cheever has moved up to within just a few car lengths of Sharp.
Well, and one of the things about the Infinities here at this altitude, Bob, is they feel they don't lose quite as much horsepower as the Aurora because of the fuel injection system. Most of the cars, the Auroras, have a butterfly system like we're used to. They have a barrel valve system on the fuel injection of the Infinities, and they feel like that maybe doesn't lose quite as much power.
Down to Jack Arute, who's with Tom Kelly.
And Tom Kelly is calling the shots down here for Scott Sharp. And understand the car may have just a little bit of push, but Scott likes it right now.
Jack, he's real happy with the car after that last pit stop. And this is a race of attrition. We just need to take it easy on the equipment and be there at the end.
All right, we understand you need to wish somebody a happy Father's Day.
Yeah, my dad's back in Fort Wayne. I'd like to wish him happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, Dad. We love you.
81 years old, guys, and he calls a lot of the shots here. 82, excuse me.
Yeah, but Jim only acts about 72. That guy's got a lot of life in it right there.
And Vince Welch has an update on Eddie Cheever Jr.
Well, the big difference for Cheever since that pit stop has been the tires. Eddie Cheever said the car was diabolical for that first stint, but what a difference this set of tires has made. And you see Cheever running strong in 2nd place.
Cheever started this race in the 10th position, has moved up to 2nd, and look how close he has come. He lost the lead with 2 laps to go at Orlando, and last week was right up there amongst them when he ran out of fuel, lost a lap, and finished in 9th position. So maybe it will be better for Eddie Cheever Jr. here this weekend at Pikes Peak.
Well, you can see Sharp is not getting away from Eddie, so they've definitely got the balance a lot better for Eddie after that stop.
There's how he has moved from his 10th starting position up to the runner-up spot. 0.8 of a second now behind Scott Sharp. Well, last year, America's Lance Armstrong inspired the nation with an amazing victory in the Tour de France. Now he returns with hopes of riding away as 2-time champion. Don't miss the Tour de France Saturday, July 1st at 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific on ABC. And get your Tour de France stage-by-stage analysis and highlights at abcsports.com, part of Go Network. Here is Mark Dismore and Greg Ray. They run 6th and 7th, and right there is also Ayrton Dare, who's 8th.
Yeah, those three have been battling each other in the racetrack pretty good. Again, they've sort of settled in on this fuels stint, so they're just biding their time and again trying to make those adjustments if they have them in the cockpit. If not, they've got to wait till that next stop.
Are you surprised that Greg has not been more of a factor? He won the pole position by blowing away the track record and even blowing away the second fastest. But when the green flag dropped here today, he really hasn't been competitive.
Well, I know there's a bunch of rumbling going on in the garage area about what they do when they qualify. How can he be 3 or 4 miles an hour quicker than everybody qualifying? In fact, the IRL confiscated their rear wing to look at it to make sure it was legal. They didn't find anything. It was stock as they could find, and but it's got some of these guys scratching their head how they're doing it qualifying.
Tom, one of the things that Greg Ray is saying he's having trouble with is race traffic. He says the car just doesn't feel real good when he's boxed up in a lot of race traffic. But he feels he has a fast car. He's been conversing with Thomas Knapp about the changes that they would like to make in the next, in what should be their final pit stop.
He is closing in on Mark Dismore. We're on board with Mark. Looking back to Greg Ray and Ayrton Dare, who's not far behind.
Well, what happens, Jack, as you know, if they use a lot of downforce in the car for the race and they get in traffic, you can see him right there. He lost the front end.
And he's in the wall.
Again, a typical case. He got in there, lost the air, and lost the downforce in the front end, and it took him right to the wall.
So Greg Ray, who won both events that were held here at Pikes Peak International last year, propelling him to the season championship, has crashed here this afternoon just shy of the halfway point. Let's take a look at the replay, Tom.
Well, again, he's down. He's got a pretty good run, but he's got his nose tucked in. Now he gets out, tries to get in good air, but he can't get the pass done. He has to go back across the wake of Dismore's car. Lost the air in the nose piece and right into the wall. He doesn't make the pass. He has to cross behind the car. He loses the downforce in the front end of the car.
And when you get out there in that light gray area, it's also slicker than it is in the groove, and that is the result for Greg Ray. Under caution, right at the halfway mark here, at the Pikes Peak International Raceway. More after these messages and a word from our ABC stations.
Fortunately, I get to spend my Happy Father's Day with my dad here, but for all the other fathers out there, Happy Father's Day. Hey Dad, Happy Father's Day. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. Thanks.
And my father-in-law just got out of the hospital down the Tampa-St. Pete area, so Happy Father's Day.
Well, and I'd like to wish my dad up in Spokane a Happy Father's Day. I don't get that chance very often.
Down to Jackaroo.
Well, Bob, one of the things that concerns Scott Sharp right now is some lightning that he can see in the turn 4 area. He called to Tom Kelly and he said, I see some lightning. Do you think this race will go the distance? Tom said, don't worry about it. Vince?
John Menard, certainly not a good way to defend the championship. You guys have really struggled. One top 10 in 6 races.
Yeah, we're just not doing well at all. You know, it seems like when we do have a little bit of good luck, 6 more times of bad luck comes by. So, you know, we'll just have to regroup and catch them next race. We got a long time till the next race, so we'll have a time to rebuild things. So.
John Menard, car owner for Greg Ray.
This is the 3rd crash this year for Greg Ray and his 4th DNF in the 6 races this year.
Yeah, they've really been struggling. Again, you know, I'm sure Ray is probably bad-mouthing himself right now. Not right now, wait. Right now he's saying, why did I try that move? He's talking to himself. He's probably blinking one eye and then into the wall.
And that is the result right there. Very badly damaged Conseco car, driven by Greg Ray, crashed out here at Pikes Peak International Raceway. Well, we understand that we're going to get the green flag next time by. We have only 3 events remaining in the Indy Racing Northern Light Series for the year 2000. Next will be at Atlanta Motor Speedway, which is very similar to the one we raced on last week in Texas and had such a great show. That'll be on Saturday night, July 15th on ESPN. We'll visit the new Kentucky Speedway on ESPN August the 27th and then return to Texas Motor Speedway October 15th here on ABC. Vince?
I'm with Jonathan Bird, one of the car owners for Robbie Unser's machine. Why was Robbie asked to leave?
Well, we were having a little bit of difficulty with the handling on this car that we're developing. The WorldBestBuy.com car just wasn't quite up to the quality of our sponsor today. So it got to the point that there was no way to stay out there with those conditions, so we didn't want to be in the way.
Bob Jenkins?
You do have to take your hat off, though, to Bird and McCormick, because they, as they say, are kind of getting this Riley and Scott chassis dialed in, and they're here every week, and they don't do very well as far as the standings are concerned, but you got to take your hat off to them.
Well, and Robbie's probably thankful they black flagged him, because when the car's that far off, you're just on the ragged, you're going slow, and you're on the ragged edge of losing control every corner. So it probably saved him a lot of heartbeats by getting off that racetrack.
Still just a couple of car lengths separate the leader, Scott Sharp, from Eddie Cheever Jr. running in second spot. Al Unser Jr. is in third. Donnie Beechler runs in fourth, and Ayrton Dare is up to the 5th position. We have 10 cars on the lead lap. We have, of course, completed more than half distance. So if we do get that rain that we see over to the west, we're okay. However, the wind is blowing in the opposite direction, so hopefully it'll blow it away from the racetrack. We'll check the speeds once again at the line here, and once again it is Scott Sharp the fastest, but that time Ayrton Dare, back in 5th spot, is the 3rd fastest, and he passed Dismore and Salazar on the restart to get up there.
Well, again, and Cheever, Sharp isn't able to run by. There's Beechler.
Nice pass by Donnie Beechler, who takes 3rd from Al Unser Jr.
And it feels like the longer they go under green, the better Beechler does. A lot of the guys maybe might be losing the handle and start slowing down, but Beechler goes farther forward.
Beechler is in the black car, just ahead of Al Unser Jr. here.
And that's Dare right behind little Al in the yellow and purple car.
New sponsorship on the side, poduproar.com for Ayrton Dare and Team Extreme this week. Beechler begins to pull away a bit from Al Unser Jr. Donnie Beechler's best finish here came in 1998 when he finished in 10th position. His best career finish came earlier this year at the Phoenix Mile. He came home 3rd.
Well, we actually talked to him earlier, and this track has given him a bad time. They've struggled here. He's spun, he's crashed a couple times. He said he almost crashed in practice this Friday and was very lucky that he saved the car. So, but he's got it figured out for today.
Unser now begins to feel a bit of pressure from Ayrton Dare, the young rookie from Brazil. He's been very impressive in his 6 races in the Indy Racing Northern Light Series, doing an incredible job at Las Vegas. In fact, leading the race when he dropped out with gearbox problems. And of course, Al Unser Jr. went on to win that race at Las Vegas.
Well, he ran good at Indianapolis. He was running towards the front when they had a problem there.
More than 30,000 have gathered here this afternoon at Pikes Peak International Raceway in what has been delightful weather so far. Seeing a good race. There again is Beechler and Al Unser Jr. running 3rd and 4th. There's about a 2.5 separation between those two. 113 laps are completed.
what's interesting here, these guys will maybe be trying a little bit different lines. And this is where spotters come in. They'll look at the leader and what line the leader is running, and his spotter can actually relay that to his driver and say, hey, you might want to move up. The leader, guy that's running a little faster than you are, is maybe a little higher in turn 4 on the exit or a little lower. Spotter can communicate that to his driver and maybe help him.
The Enzer family, of course, very famous for their runs up Pikes Peak, which is not too far from this oval here. And Jack Arute has a report on Eddie Cheever, who continues to run in second spot, about 2.5 seconds behind Scott Sharp.
And Bob, remember we told you there's 2 Infinities in the field. One is blown up. We showed you Ed Pink. Where is he now? Right here, monitoring Eddie Cheever's progress. It's kind of like, where's Waldo?
Well, Scott Sharp has been able to put some distance between himself and Cheever as they once again negotiate some of the slower traffic. That is once again Hattori, who was able to get back in the race after that spin.
Right, it's sort of good news, bad news for Hattori. He spun, didn't hit anything, but the bad news is you got to run the rest of the race in that same uniform, Bob.
Here is Mark Dismore, who is in 7th position, and he's putting a lap on Scott Goodyear. It's not been a good day for Scott. 13th position, 2 laps down, and Sam Hornish is not having a good day either. He's been in and out of the pit several times, and most recently, you understand, he may have had some contact with the wall, slight as it might be.
You can see him wiggle the car to see if he can feel anything broke, but he's on his way in, and the guy's going to check it out with him.
He's another rookie in the Indy Racing Northern Lights Series, hailing from Defiance, Ohio, has competed in Formula 2000 on this racetrack. There you see Scott Sharp putting another lap on Billy Boat.
Bob, remember at the top of the show I told you that the question marks about when you should pit, you have to follow the leader? Well, Eddie Cheever wants to pit on lap 141. Your leader, Scott Sharp, he is talking about pitting maybe around lap 125, that early. Could get real interesting down here on pit road in the next few laps.
Well, if so, that would only be about 4 laps from right now, because the 121st lap is in the books.
Well, we talked about the fuel mileage, and we felt the Infinity maybe wasn't getting as good a mileage as the Auroras, but if those numbers are correct, the Infinity obviously has made some big gains in the fuel mileage in.
Indianapolis 500 winner. Not 1 3/4 seconds behind Scott Sharp. On board here with Jeff Ward, who's back in 16th position, 3 laps down.
Well, you can hear him have to wait on the throttle in the corner. Let's see how it is at this end. He has to roll out of the throttle. Now, he wants to be back in the throttle, but he's got to wait, and then as he exits the corner, too far off the corner is when he has to get back in the throttle, and the driver just is really frustrated here when you have to wait that long before you can get back after the gas.
And Al Unser Jr. now gets...
And that's Darley just right on Al's tail, and they're both going by Goodyear from his side cam.
Well, Jr. got boxed up a little bit behind Scott Goodyear, but now here is Darley trying to take the position from Al Unser Jr. and not being able to do so. This is the battle for 4th position.
Well, again, Darley catches him, but you get in that bad air. Now, obviously, Darley's car is a lot better than Greg Ray's was, because he's able to run pretty tight and not lose the front end nearly as bad as Greg Ray.
Vince Welch is with Greg Ray.
First there was some small contact in the pit lane, and then turn 4 put you out. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, it's very disappointing for the Conseco team Menard. They've been doing a great job all weekend long, and we were just running strong up front, just biding our time, and we came in with that first pit stop, and we're at the back of the pits, and that's maybe not a good place to be. We're one of the first ones in, and a lot of cars were coming behind us, and we got caught up in a pit lane incident. We put on a new nose, got back in, and we were running 9th, and worked our way back up, I guess, to about 6th place, and I was a lot quicker than Mark Dismore, and kept on showing him my nose, and he'd take the air away. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's one of those things where I should exercise more patience. So I apologize to my team. They deserve better than that.
Safe to say there's going to be a new champion in this series this season.
Well, Sharp apparently is going to stay out there, so we're going to take a quick break here before the second set of pit stops, and we'll be right back. While we were away, things really got interesting out on the racetrack, as look at Eddie Cheever there taking the lead from Scott Sharp. Sharp was battling with Robbie McGee, trying to put him 3 laps down, make that 2 laps down. And all of a sudden Cheever came along and took the lead, and then moments after that Donnie Beechler got around Scott Sharp. So suddenly Scott Sharp is from first to third, and now we go back live, and Beechler is within a couple of car lengths of Cheever.
Well, Beechler, again, the longer they run, the faster Beechler gets. Either that or the other guys are backing up to him. Sharp, something happened with Sharp. His balance has gone away.
Tom, I can tell you exactly what happened to Scott Sharp. The car's gone big time loose. And they are now just going to try and hold on and decide and fix it when they come in for their final pit stop.
And we have moved to lap 137, so we are far away from the anticipated pit stop by Eddie Cheever Jr. He's just staying out there. There's the onboard with Jeff Ward, and that's Donnie Beechler that just went around him.
Well, we saw Donnie almost get caught in traffic, but he was able to turn the car down without getting the back end loose. So Beechler's car is working.
Eddie Cheever has led 4 of the 6 races in the year 2000 in the Indy Racing Northern Light Series.
How would you like to have this as your message, Tom Sneva? Scott Sharp radios in and says, it's so bad, I'm having a difficult time holding onto the steering wheel. Tom Kelly radios back and says, just hold on, just hold on.
Easy for him to say, huh?
It really is, but that's why the pedals are hinged, Bob. You know, you just got to roll out of the throttle and run a little slower, but that's real frustrating when the car's been so good for so long.
Sharp has dropped a 1.5 seconds back of Cheever. We have the battle on the racetrack up in the top left, and on the bottom right, well, we'll see how much of an effort it is for Scott Sharp.
Well, it's going to be hard to see the effort, but you'll see that he won't be able to turn the wheel very far. He doesn't want to turn it. The more he turns it, the more it wants to knock the rear end loose, so he's not turning that wheel very much, Bob. He's real gentle. You see him just sort of shuffle the wheel a little bit. He's out of the throttle, and he can't pick it up quite as quick as he'd like.
At the moment, he is in no danger of losing the 3rd position because there are about 7.5 seconds between Scott Sharp and Ayrton Dare, who's running in 4th position. Vince has an update on Donnie Beechler, who's looking good, running 2nd.
Obviously, Beechler likes the mile tracks. He was 6th at Disney and 3rd at Phoenix, but right now he would like to have a yellow because this team needs to come in for fuel and tires. They had targeted lap 140, and obviously we're at lap 141, so that tells you what Beechler is in need of.
Beechler now trying to get around Tice Carlson. Carlson is running in 10th position. Couple of laps down, but not a bad run at all for Tice Carlson, who had the stomach flu on Friday and passed up the practice session. Eddie Cheever was the guy who shook it down, and we're seeing from the Pennzoil Panther cam, that's Donnie Beechler to the inside of Scott Goodyear once again.
Well, that was a tough situation because Tice was trying to get by Goodyear at the same time Beechler was trying to get by them both, and it really held up Beech for a little bit.
Fellas, Eddie Cheever Jr. will be bringing his Excite car down onto pit road for his final stop. They don't really anticipate making any major changes, and Eddie Cheever is headed onto pit road for service. You know the keys, guys. Hit your marks and then let your crew go to work. 6 men over the wall, and it's now their time to shine. They can either deliver it to Cheever or take it away.
Here's our new camera mounted right there at the pit wall as we watch the guys fuel the car, get the new tires on, getting every drop of fuel in the car, then pulling away, and away he goes in 12.6 seconds for Eddie Cheever Jr.
Well, and they had the tires changed a lot quicker than the fuel went in. He had to wait for fuel. They had to get it all in there.
So Cheever now will blend in with the traffic and get the excited home Indy race car up to speed.
Well, as we suspected, fuel mileage, the Infinity was the first one that had to stop under that green, Bob, indicating that they still don't have the mileage that some of the Auroras do at this point.
And here's an indication. Look for Scott Sharp, your current second place man, to pit on lap 150. Meanwhile, Donnie Beechler's on pit road.
Well, Donnie Beechler did get the lead for 3 laps, but he relinquishes it now for his second and hopefully final pit stop.
So you might want to go back with soft on your rear bar and probably soft on the front bar. You might have to raise the front back up a bit. Pop it down on a jacker.
No, you heard him on the radios. You might have to go softer in the front bar. That indicates they need to stick the front end more.
Well, it was a 14.7 second pit stop for Donnie Beechler, and he rolls back out of the racetrack as Al Unser Jr. comes in for a stop. And apparently they're anticipating some chassis adjustments on that car as Al Unser Jr. hits his pit stall. There's our overhead camera.
You heard him talk about reset the dash. They reset it so they know what kind of fuel they're using.
Making an adjustment on the left front wing. Meanwhile, back in the lead is Scott Sharp, despite the ill-handling race car, now with about a 4-second advantage.
Not for long, Bob Jenkins. He's now been called on the pit road. Finally, Scott Sharp will be able to breathe a sigh of relief. Watch for a chassis adjustment to solve that loose condition. The crew's waiting for Scott Sharp to come on the pit road.
Well, he's on his way, but again, this team's getting better fuel mileage, just like they did in Texas last week. It really caught him a yellow last week and really gave him a big advantage.
Ayrton Dare, who was running in second place for a while, is now out of the pits after he made his stop as Scott arrives in his pit box.
You heard Tom Kelly tell Scott Sharp to keep the revs up. They don't want to stall this thing. They drop it, put it into gear, it lurches forward.
Go, boys, let's go. Pull it out, pull it out, pull it out. Go.
Now, I didn't see him change the front wing, so if they're changing the balance, they had to do it with tire stagger.
Indeed, then it turns out what they did, stagger and pressure, Bob.
15.4 second pit stop for Scott Sharp as Al Unser Jr. has taken his car to the lead.
And that could have been a longer stop if it were not for Tom Kelly. You heard him on the radio say, pull it out, boys, pull it out. They hadn't even taken on a full 35 gallons.
Schrader makes his pit stop. The lead now belongs to Mark Dismore with Stefan Gregoire running second. And as things cycle around, I believe that Schrader is going to be third. A long pit stop for Schrader. I believe they killed it and they had to insert the starter. But now Schrader goes back into the race. Here's Mark Dismore, now the leader of the event.
Well, getting quite a bit better mileage than his teammate Sharp. He's been out there 3 or 4 laps longer.
He has about a 6-second advantage on Gregoire.
He's coming in. You hear him get out of the throttle. He's heading for the pits, Bob.
So Mark, who battled a ill-handling race car in the early stages of the event, apparently has things going much better for him as he relinquishes the lead now to come in for his final pit stop, and this will be on lap 156.
Now we'll have to watch and see how much fuel they take in for Scott Sharp. Didn't take a full load. Now all of a sudden will Dismore take a full load? Tires are done. They don't take a full load. They tap the fuel man on the shoulder and he pulls out.
And a good 10.7 second pit stop for Dismore. And here is Cheever on the racetrack up at full speed. Would like to put a lap on Dismore, but I don't think he's going to do it as Mark is getting up to speed. Nevertheless, Cheever is in second position right now to Gregoire. Dare, Dismore, and Beechler are the other cars on the lead lap as Al Unser Jr. is now a lap down.
And again, both of the Kelly cars did a time stop. They knew they didn't need a full fuel load to go the distance. There's only, what, 43 laps left,
Yeah,
Bob?
but Tom, the big problem was the time stop for Scott Sharp. It was like a last-minute call by Tom Kelly.
Well, I think it's just because they realized they didn't need a full load late. And with Dismore, they knew the strategy at that point, and they were able to be more on top of their game and a little shorter stop for Dismore.
Stefan Gregoire came into this race with perhaps as much optimism as he has ever had. His best finish of his career came here in 1997. He finished in 2nd position. He started 7th today, the 2nd best of his career. Right now, he has a 5.5-second lead on Eddie Cheever Jr. There's Donnie Beechler, who is in 5th spot right now. And scoring is showing us 5 cars on the lead lap with Alonso Jr., Mark Dismore, Robbie McGee, Buzz Calkins, and Jarrett Schrader completing the top 10, but all those guys a lap down.
Well, you saw Beechler. He had a longer pit stop than the rest of those guys, and it really hurt him on the racetrack. He's back to 5th.
So Stefan Gregoire has the lead here, and he is the 6th leader of the afternoon. Scott Sharp has led the most. Scott currently runs 4th. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Pikes Peak International Raceway. We have completed 182 laps. There are the top 5. We're at Pikes Peak International Raceway for the 6th event of the Indy Racing Northern Light Series. I'm Bob Jenkins along with Tom Sneva, Vince Welch, and Jack Arute down in the pit area. 200 laps constitute this race. We have had 6 different leaders, with Scott Sharp having led the most laps, 77. The average speed of the race, 133 miles an hour, and they're the drivers that have dropped out of competition. Most recently, Billy Boat, Sarah Fisher, and Greg Ray have been involved in accidents, contact with the wall, but both are okay. We're watching this battle between Scott Sharp and Ayrton Darray for the 3rd position. That's Darray up ahead of Scott Sharp. We're on board with Scott Sharp.
Well, you can see Scott's got a pretty good run on him, but the outside, I know that's going to be a tough way around.
Let's see if he can do it. Not this time.
You can see it's interesting how Scott shuffles that wheel between the hands. Instead of keeping the hands solid on the wheel, he shuffles that wheel, and it's a little unusual for some of these oval tracks.
And the car that you saw on the onboard camera down on the apron of the track headed for pit road is Stefan Gregoire, who led for a while, dropped back to 2nd, was there when he decided to come in for his final pit stop.
1, 2, 3, 4, down.
And that is what is called a timed pit stop. They get 5 seconds worth of fuel, no new tires, just fuel enough to get him to the checkered flag.
Well, again, that's Sharp going by McGee in the red and white car. A couple laps ago, he was trying to wipe all the paint off the wall coming off of turn 4, Bob, and it almost gave Gregoire the yellow he needed, but again, McGee got away with it, and he's still out there running.
McGee is in 11th position, 2 laps down. Scott Sharp now moves to 3rd, and up into 2nd is the rookie Ayrton Darray with Donnie Beechler 4th, and the last car on the lead lap. There is Beechler in the dark car, not too far behind Scott Sharp. But Eddie Cheever Jr. is the man of the hour.
Well, you talked about a man on a mission. Earlier last year, a lot of times people thought it was going to be mission impossible for this Infinity to win, but it's been knocking on the door all year long, and it looks like he's in pretty good shape right now.
We could see history in the making here this afternoon at Pikes Peak. There is Ayrton Darray, and the interval between himself and Cheever is 12.07 seconds, and Scott Sharp is 12.6 seconds behind Cheever.
Well, they've been in that same relationship for quite a few laps. I thought Sharp might be able to pick him up, but Darray's doing a heck of a job out there.
10 laps to go at the line.
Indeed, 190 complete with 10 to go now. And we watch Scott Sharp and Donnie Beechler both trying to close in on Ayrton Darray. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th right here. Darray's best career finish, 11th at Orlando, first race of the year. Oh, make that 10th, I'm sorry, last week at Texas.
Well, and you heard on Sharp's radio, he said the spotter told him to watch his mirrors. There's traffic coming up from behind as Scott's trying to pick off Darray, but here comes Beechler. How about this effort for Donnie Beechler? I mean, he's all over these guys.
He sure is. Hey, baby, making a move. No, Scott has to dive down to the inside of the racetrack to make the corner, shutting off the momentum momentarily of Donnie Beechler.
Well, you can see Donnie got in that wake again, the bad air, and he had to roll out of the throttle, lost a little of that momentum. And it'll take him another couple laps to get the momentum back to take another run at Sharp. It'll be interesting to see if he can get it done. He's working real hard right now.
Well, Eddie Cheever Jr., if he wins this race, will take the points lead. Buddy Lazier was the first out of the event. Lazier came in as the points leader. He was the first out, however, on lap number 1 when the engine let go. So the point standings are really going to change as a result of what we've seen here today. Buell was right up there in points also. He was the 23rd finisher here this afternoon. And of course, Eddie Cheever Jr. will also be the 6th different winner in 6 different races.
Clear.
And once again, we watch the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th as they clear some of the slower traffic.
Beechler can catch Sharp, but here he goes. They're so evenly matched, it's going to be real tough for Beechler to get around. He might need some help from some traffic.
We've got 4 laps to go at Pikes Peak International Raceway. Cheever with a 12.8 second lead on Dare. The best battle on the racetrack is this one. Sharp and Beechler for 3rd.
Well, this is real tough for a driver. It's real frustrating. You know you're a little quicker, but you can't figure out how to get the job done. And sometimes you try a little bit too hard, and he knows he's running out of time.
Just 3 more miles to go in this afternoon's event. Now Dare once again comes up on slower traffic in the form of Al Unser Jr., who's back in 6th position. But again, where he passes is very critical to how much separation he can put between himself and the car behind him. And look at Beechler. They go 3 wide into the corner. Whoa! And Beechler and Unser touch wheels, and Beechler is hard into the wall, and Unser Jr. also bangs the wall.
Cheever's got to run right through this mess.
But the caution is out, and the race will obviously end under the caution because we are on the last lap of the race. And Eddie Cheever Jr. picks up his 4th career win. 3 of them have come on 1-mile ovals. He takes the points lead, and perhaps more importantly, he brings the Infiniti Indy engine its first victory in Indy Racing Northern Light Series competition.
Well, that's just amazing. You know, they lost one of the motors earlier, so they had to be on their heels a little bit about their reliability situation, but there it was. The Infiniti comes home with number 1.
Eddie Cheever Jr. wins at Pikes Peak International. Well, an unfortunate situation down in turn number 1, as on the final lap of the race, Donnie Beechler and Al Unser Jr. touched wheels as Beechler was trying to pass Scott Sharp.
Well, we talk about frustration. He knows he only has a couple laps left. His only route to get by was the outside, 3 wide. I'm sure little Al didn't know that Beechler was going on the outside of him. Donnie had to try to make the move, but when you're young and haven't had a win, you do what you can to try to get the job done.
Here is another angle.
Again, Donnie's only route by is on the outside. Little Al backs off, trying to let Sharp go, but I don't know if he realized that Beechler was on the outside of him. And it's just not room for 3 cars down in there, Bob.
Sort of reminiscent of the touch of wheels between Al Unser Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There is Donnie Beechler, and that is very good news. Beechler is going to end up in 5th position, but boy, he gave that car quite a run. Eddie Cheever Jr. is in victory lane, and so is Jack.
And Eddie Cheever Jr. is getting out of his excited home car. This is a special moment, not only for Eddie Cheever Jr., but for the Nissan Infiniti people. And you can see what he's going to do. Eddie wants to celebrate. And we're going to go around the other side here and grab him because it may have been so long that he's been to victory lane, he's forgotten. Turn around because the camera's over here. I know you don't really care because you've just taken the Nissan Infiniti into history. The first win, Eddie, congratulations.
We got the first win for Oldsmobile, and we have the first ones for Infiniti, so that's good. It was I had such a big advantage today. It was unreal. Once we got the car working properly, oh man, that's good. I'm glad. I'm getting so tired of answering when is the Infinity going to win. Next question is, when is Infinity going to win the championship?
Well, you're leading the championship right now, getting the congratulations of Owen Snyder. And what an interesting mix for this team. Eddie Cheever coming from Formula One and open wheels, and Owen Snyder, his crew chief, coming from the World of Outlaws. So, Eddie, you are now the official leader of the Indy Racing Northern Lights Series chase for the championship.
I'm normally not at a loss for words, but right now, I really need to thank, obviously, Excited Home for giving us so much support and allowing us to make a run for the championship. And we have worked very hard with Nissan Infiniti to get it to this point. I was looking forward to a race with Lazier, and I saw he had a problem, so I'm sure we got a long way to go to the end, but what a great race, and I'm so happy and so honored to have won with this engine. This is great. I'm really, really pleased.
Bob, it's not raining anymore. It's just raining here in Victory Lane. He's got us all soaked.
Well, a great afternoon drive for Eddie Cheever, and Ayrton Daré, the rookie, finishes second, his best ever finish. Scott Sharp, last week's winner, finishes in third position. More from Pikes Peak in a moment. Stay with us.
Back at Pikes Peak International Raceway, where Eddie Cheever has just won the first race for Infinity, and the man who put the Infinity program together, Frank Hansowitz. You received almost as many congratulations as Eddie did.
Well, I think everybody here knew it was a good victory for us, and we're rooting for us, and we've been a player all year long with the Infinity, and I think everybody's happy we won.
Were you scared or worried when Robbie Buell lost his motor?
Yeah, I was. For a moment, we knew as soon as I talked to Ed Pink and knew what had happened with that one, and it's a shame because Robbie was really running strong. He had the command of the race early, and it's, I mean, truly a crying shame.
It's been a long time coming. Congratulations, Frank.
Thank you. Everybody's happy. Thanks to Eddie Cheever.
Jackaroo.
Hey, Vince, we've got the guy that was the fifth face. Eddie Cheever is the sixth face. Maybe he'll be the seventh face to go to Victory Lane. First of all, Scott Sharp, you had a solid car, and then it went away real quick.
Yeah, we on the first run, we fought some looseness conditions and tightened that up, and the car was really strong in the second run. Then, we just had a combination. The car wasn't quite where we wanted it in traffic, and it was a little loose on its own, so we fought that a lot. But, hey, we came into these last two races with the Delphi team wanting to get two top finishes, get ourselves back in the points race. Winning last weekend and a third here basically accomplishes our goal.
Is that what it's all about now with just a couple of races left? You got to get as many points as possible. Are you chasing that championship?
Well, we weren't till last weekend. We were a little out of it. But, after Indianapolis is over, it becomes points, points, points. You want to win as much as you can, but you need to get the points.
Another driver that's chasing points, but the Rookie of the Year points are to Ayrton Daré, and finally a good run. Congratulations.
Thanks. We're knocking on the door like last three races, and finally we could cross the start-finish line on the podium and top three. Second place is really good for us.
Describe the feeling that you had as his crew chief, Mark White, goes by. Describe the feeling that you had when you completed the race, because you've had all kinds of mechanical problems.
No, that yellow, my car wasn't very good in last few laps, that's 5 laps, I'd say. And I was worried about him overtaking me, so that yellow helped me a lot. But it's a great feeling to be on the podium again, and since last year in Indy Lights, I've never been to the podium.
Well, let me show you where the podium is. It's headed right there, and they're calling your name. Ayrton Daré, Bob. He finished second, a solid second.
Very nice run for Daré. Now here are the point standings. Eddie Cheever Jr. has the lead over Buddy Lazier, Scott Sharp, Scott Goodyear, and Mark Dismore. And take a look at this. Every driver that has won here at Pikes Peak has gone on to win the championship. We'll be right back.
A fourth place finish might not get you on the podium, but what a run for you today, because I know that car was awful at the beginning.
Yeah, I was wanting to give OnStar and Bryant their first win this year, but it just wasn't meant to be. We just missed the setup, Vince. The weather changed a little bit, and it was a handful, and as soon as I got in any kind of turbulence, I just had my hands full, and we made some huge tire pressure changes and wing adjustments on the first stop, and it really helped the car. I was really working with the weight jacker and the sway bar, and got the car better, and we hung in there all day. A couple guys had some problems, and here we are, fourth in points. It's tightened up. The next 3 races are high-speed tracks, and I seem to have a knack for that, so I'm pretty optimistic right now.
Mark Dismore, fourth today. Jackaroo?
Yeah, and one bad thing happens to Al Unser Jr. It's real simple. You got hit.
Yeah, I got split. I knew I was being lapped, and I got split, and one of the Kelly cars went down low.
Here, we're going to show it to you, Al. We're going to bring it forward here, and maybe you'll be able to see exactly what happened. Here you go.
And then Beechler went above me, and right then I got out of the throttle to let them both by me, and
Beechler ended up coming down on my front end, and we hit and spun and hit the fence.
Yeah, it didn't look too good. But what about the run? Because you came from the back and you really did a solid job again.
Yeah, we were moving up there. You know, I want to thank everybody for doing a great job. The car was a little bit on the loose side, and so I couldn't get through 1 and 2 as well as I could through 3 and 4. And so I didn't have enough for Eddie Cheever or anything like that. I mean, he was on a rail, and congratulations to him.
Would you classify this as a typical 1-mile contest?
It was a typical 1-mile contest, you betcha. And I learned a lot today. You know, this first time for me here, I didn't know which way the track was going to go. The rain or the sun was out, and so I put a lot of downforce in it, and it cost us.
Bob?
Al Unser Jr. winds up in 10th position. It's his 4th top 10 finish in his last 5 races. Cheever Jr. wins at Pikes Peak. And our Mobile One update will review some of the other racing action that we have seen today here at Pikes Peak International. It was Eddie Cheever Jr. who drove to victory lane. There was a Formula One race today, and Michael Schumacher was the victor there in Montreal, with Barrichello second, Mika Hakkinen and Jos Verstappen finishing in the 4th and the 5th position. Now in the Kart FedEx Championship Series at Detroit today, Elio Castro Neves was the winner. Congratulations to him on his first victory, and the 101st for Roger Penske. Max Pappas finished in the 2nd position. And as far as the NASCAR Winston Cup Series is concerned, at Pocono, Pennsylvania, it was rained out. It will be run tomorrow. Down to Jack Arute.
Well, you're looking at Donnie Beechler's left knee. They have iced it down, and he has contusions of the foot as well. But tell us what happened out there, Donnie.
Well, one of those last lap ditch efforts. You know, we had a great race car all day, and started 15th, moved up to 3rd, and really was just kind of biding my time back there. And then we got up on Scott Sharp, and he got caught in lap traffic. So I figured, well, if Alec had enough room maybe to move around the outside of him, and we just went into the corner, and I don't think it was really anybody's fault. We just not enough room for too many cars.
All right, Donnie, it's good to hear that you're all right. Bob?
This Wide World of Sports update brought to you by Mobile One. Nothing outperforms Mobile One.
Well, the top 3 finishers are on the podium. Eddie Cheever, Ayrton Daré, and Scott Sharp. Vince?
Jarrett Schrader, along with Eddie Cheever, the only 2 drivers to finish every race this season. You were 7th today. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. You know, we thought we had a good race car coming into the race, but you know, the track changed quite a bit with the weather here, and you know, we had a loose car exiting 2 and a big push coming out of 4, and you know, we wanted to do a lot better, but we're just glad that we finished.
A great show on the first time ever on the racetrack. Bob Jenkins?
Schrader finishing in 7th position here today, 2 laps down. And so the crowd begins now to file out of Pikes Peak International Raceway after a very entertaining afternoon, Tom Sneva.
Well, no question. Beechler, you know, he had a shot for 2nd. He was going to gain 1. He ended up losing 2, but he was going for it.
Saturday night, July 15th at Atlanta Motor Speedway will be our next race in the Indy Racing Northern Light Series on ESPN. Our congratulations go to Eddie Cheever Jr., the winner here at Pikes Peak International. ABC is online at abcsports.com, part of Go Network. So long from Pikes Peak.